The trap door. We sat there without saying anything else until we'd smoked our cigarettes down. I tried not to think about what Robbie and I did. What Robbie and I just did was the only thing I could think about. If I was confused and torn before going up on the roof with Robbie, I was pulp, ready to be spit out by history after we spent a few minutes there. I tried to think like we didn't actually do it, but I could still taste Robbie's mouth in mine. I tried to listen for Shan moving around below us in the Grasshopper Jungle so I wouldn't hear my mind telling me how it would be all right if Robbie asked me to kiss him again sometime. It would be thrilling and daring. After midnight, Ealing is quieter than a stone coffin. Robbie could tell I was confused, tripping out, we would say. "Are you mad at me?" he asked. "Shit, I'm not mad." "Okay, look." I hadn't been looking at Robbie until he'd said that. Didn't even notice that I was staring at my shoelaces, tracing the zigzag path of them up, down, back, forth, with the tip of my finger, like a train on a white switchback track, from one shoe to the other, over and over. Around the loop, crossover, back and forth. I raised my eyes. Robbie scooted through the gravel away from me. He lifted a square metal door in the roof, propped it open. I hadn't even realized it was there. "Roof access ladder," Robbie says. "Goes down into the second-hand store." "It was left unlocked," I said. "Nobody ever comes up here." Up here has a watch flamingo and a lemur head. No one wants to mess with shit like that. Robbie lowered his face down below the rim of the trapdoor. He said, "Do you want to go down there?" I had already done something with Robbie I never believed I would do. Climbing down inside Johnny McKeon's second-hand store in the middle of the night was meaningless shit in comparison. I said, "That would be cool." Then I stood up. I was dizzy. I was like the tip of my finger, zigging and zagging from eye to eye, following a string, making history. Robbie watched me get up. I caught his eyes looking at me. I knew we'd never look at each other the same, and I didn't know how I felt about that. I caught him trying to see if I had an erection. I tried to pull my t-shirt down to cover it. The basketball shorts and boxers I had been wearing that day revealed yet another strategic flaw for the history books. History shows that erections happen at the worst possible times, and they stick around until someone else notices them. Often it is either a librarian or an English teacher, like Mrs. Edith Mitchell. I went to follow the edge of the roof to the top of the small ladder we'd used to get up there. "Shan," I said, "I just want to make sure she's okay." Robbie didn't answer. Words like okay mean all kinds of things. Robbie knew enough that saying anything might nail down a definition of okay that wasn't what either of us wanted to hear. The explorer was dark and quiet. Shan was still asleep. We hadn't been gone for more than 20 minutes, even if time seemed too slow to a crawl now. Across the street, Satan's Pizza winked. The fluorescent tubes inside the sign made an audible hiss, like a dying wasp when it went dark. Robbie climbed down the trapdoor. I followed him. Hungry Jack. On weekends and over the summers, I earned money doing jobs for Johnny McKeon at his from attic to cellar consignment store. Johnny felt obligated to me because I was Shan's boyfriend. Usually the jobs required cleaning the store. Second-hand stores are like vacuum cleaners to the world. They suck in everybody's shit. History shows that, like Ealing, when towns are dying, the last things to catch the plague are the second-hand and liquor stores. Johnny McKeon was on top of the world. Sometimes Johnny would receive new consignments out in Grasshopper Jungle and then leave me to go through and sort boxes, unroll and sweep off rugs, and clean out the drawers and dressers and nightstands. I found a lot of condoms and Bibles in them. Johnny told me I could do whatever I wanted with those things. I threw the Bibles in the dumpster. Robbie and I climbed down the ladder. It deposited us, like visiting aliens, into a common back room that connected Tipsy Cricket Liquors from attic to cellar. The ladder was attached by metal brackets to a plasterboard wall where the electrical panel box from the store was located. I had seen the ladder there plenty of times. I'd even noticed the roof access sign posted on the wall with an arrow pointing up, as though you might not know where the roof could be direction-wise. Is that little up arrow? I never thought about going up on the roof of a mall before I went there with Robbie. On the other side of the wall was the shop's toilet. It was such a small space that you would be looking straight across at your own face in the mirror and could reach the soap and paper towel dispensers and wash your hands in the sink, all while you were sitting on the toilet. Holly Jungfrau could never take a shit in there. There was a sign on the door that said, "No public restroom." Everyone knew the public restroom was at the laundrette, or between the dumpster and the couch, in the Grasshopper Jungle, if you couldn't hold it that far. There was a homeless guy who'd come riding through on his rickety old bicycle about once a week or so. His bicycle was always teetering, precisely and ridiculously balanced, with huge bundles and bags strapped to any available rusted crossbar. Robbie and I called him Hungry Jack, but we never asked him his name. Hungry Jack didn't have any front teeth. Hungry Jack fought in Vietnam. When he came through, Hungry Jack would stop and climb into the dumpster, dig around for things. Robbie and I caught him taking a shit one time between the dumpster and the couch. I have read that the human memory for smells is one of the most powerful bits of data that can be etched into our brains. Although it seems so foreign to me, being inside from attic to cellar in the middle of the night, the smell of the place was entirely familiar. The shop had this constant, perfumed odor of sorrow, death, abandonment, condoms, and Bible verses. It was like nothing I'd ever smelled anywhere else. I felt as at home there, as you'd have to feel, lying in your own coffin. Johnny's Things. Oh. What an awful... Okay, so your little handy thing is handy. So is my pillow and my bed. Johnny's Things. "This way," I whispered. Robbie had never set foot inside the second-hand store until that night. I told him about it enough times. "This is rather scary," Robbie said. Robbie was speaking like a non-Elingite. "Do you want to get out?" "No." Robbie put his hand on my shoulder so he wouldn't trip on anything. I led him out around the back counter, which was a rectangular glass case where Johnny McKeon displayed watches, jewelry, cameras, guns, and 3 framed insect collections. There were only a few things from attic to cellar that I favored. The insects are among my most appreciated abandoned items. One of the frames contained only butterflies. For some reason, I always found the butterflies to be boring. But the other 2 frames were wonders. One displayed 41 beetles. I counted them. There were all kinds of oddities in the frames, including beetles with horns, and some nearly as large as my clenched fist. The beetles in the center were posed so their shells were open, and their glassine wings spread wide. The last frame had 15 bugs in it. An enormous centipede curled around the bend at one corner, and a glossy black scorpion raised its stinging tail in the other. Centered against the white backing board was a vampire bat with little beaded eyes frozen with its mouth snarled open. "Isn't that the coolest shit?" I asked. Robbie said, "No." Robbie remained attached to my shoulder, and I took him along the circular path around the main floor of the store. Johnny McKeon arranged from attic to cellar consignment store, so that shoppers, or even people coming in to inquire about using the toilet, would have to walk a serpentine path from the front door to the back counter. His path led past every stack of clutter Johnny offered up for sale. Tipsy Cricket was different. At the liquor store, the counter was right up front, a deterrent to booze and cigarette thieves. Johnny McKeon was a good marketer. I've never seen so much shit in my life, Robbie said. There were nightstands on top of end tables stacked perilously on dinner tables, and every flat surface of every item of furniture was covered in figurines, place settings, ashtrays, silverware, toys, picture frames, clocks, crucifixes, candles, rock collections, pocket knives, and too many other things for me to list. I put the price tags on almost every one of them for Johnny, too. Johnny made a lot of money. As soon as one corner of the shop went empty, it quickly filled up again. A lot of things came from the realtors and loan agents. Some people in Ealing left behind what they couldn't fit in the trunks of back seats or of their cars when the banks took their homes. Abandoned stuff from defeated Iowans had a way of migrating into Johnny McKeon's hands. Robbie's hand slipped off my shoulder. "Oops," he said. Objects clinked together in the dark. Figurines fell. "Be careful," I said. "Where are we going?" "I just want to see what Johnny's hiding." That scared Robbie. He grabbed my hand. "Don't be such a baby. You wanted to come down here. I know where I'm going." Robbie started to let go of my hand. "It's okay," I said. I pulled Robbie along by the hand like a little kid. Johnny McKeon kept things in his private office. He never let me go in there. Johnny never let anyone go in there. There were things Johnny wouldn't sell. One of them was a sealed glass globe he kept on a shelf beside the office door. I was fascinated by the globe. It had been made by some of the scientists in the lab at McKean Institute and contained a perfectly balanced universe. There was water, land, plants, bacteria, a species of tiny shrimp, worms, and even some translucent fish in there. It was perfect. It was sealed and self-sustaining. Nothing got in and nothing got out. My hand was wet and hot. "You're sweating all over me," I said to Robbie. "Sorry." I turned the knob to Johnny's office. Of course it was locked. Robbie bumped into me. He wasn't paying attention, and he pinned me flat against the office door with his chest. No go, said Robbie. "I guess we should get out of here." "I know where Johnny keeps the keys." "It isn't very smart," he said. I said. Despite his creativity in naming businesses, he had an eye for marketing, and his eye for marketing strategies. Johnny McKeon wasn't that careful when it came to trusting teenage boys. History lesson? Teenage boys watch you, even when they pretend they don't give a shit about your life. Johnny kept the key resting flat on the lip of the molding at the top of the door. I pulled it down and unlocked our way into Johnny McKeon's office, where he kept his secrets. Johnny said, "I really need a cigarette." Okay, that's enough. Have a good one. Love you.